Right. This conversation is as controversial as Jesus, as racism. We're talking about finances today. Those subjects are incredibly important and valuable for people who want to win and make the most out of life. It's incredibly important to be able to dive into hard topics, whether it's religion, politics, finances, especially those who are creators. This is designed for the creators, the leaders in the world who really miss the basic components of business and raising capital. And you may think you're above this, but your prospects are not. If you're in the provider space, this is something that we all have a duty, a civic duty to learn and to ultimately reteach however we see fit, right? I'm not here to control how you teach it, but I am going to deliver well how I teach this and why it's so important for entrepreneurs. And we know why 96% fail within 10 years. 4% survive. Most of these never explore their funding options and don't know anything about funding and how to drive funding. They know very little beyond work hard, maybe get credit cards. They've explored that reality. Maybe beg friends or family to support. That's not how investments work. We need to be creating win-wins across the board. We need to displace rather some of the myths regarding finances. We're going to start with that. Then we're going to talk about resources for traditional financing that are not talked about enough. Things that if you haven't already done the opportunity of being a wise steward and looking into them, then now is your time to step up and look into those. I'm passionate about this because I'm tired of seeing so many people lose who do not have to lose. They're even scared to have this conversation. Watch the video. Don't be scared. Don't feel like I'm preaching at you. I'm not. I'm just passionate for you. I want you to win. So the script to call potential lenders and investors and how to go about that. I'm not talking about when you actually talk to your personal banker who can approve loans. I'm talking about when you're talking to people you know, friends, family, neighbors, people who don't have investment opportunities where they could get a 5 to a 20% return. Well, they can get that from you. And rather than believing in the stock market, they're trusting an entity that I'm trusting as well. I'm trusting you to use this information in order to help people and create a win-win scenario with them, not to take advantage of people. So please use this with all ethics in mind. And if you have a vision that you want to bridge gaps in and you want to create solutions that are going to serve others, this is the opportunity. So myth number one, your friends and family are a great source of advice for money decisions. That is very unlikely not true. It's far from the truth. Most of you have friends and family who are broke, who do not make good money decisions. They inherited money from somebody, or they've sacrificed so much of their personal life in order to obtain some type of wealth that they can hold over your head. But in reality, they're not wealthy. They don't make wealthy decisions. Wealth is about the money and the combination of having a great life. So be very careful about taking advice from friends and family. Your spouse is going to be thrilled about your investment decisions, right? Myth number two, no, they're not. They're supposed to be there as a safety net. If you were the visionary, they're not going to want you to invest. They're going to want to avoid all risk. Your spouse is qualified to assess deals. No, they're not. They are not, unless they're Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos, and you know the point. Yours isn't. That's why you're watching this and they're not. Don't put that on their shoulders. Your marriage will be better off with your spouse making business decisions by your side that they are not qualified to make with you or for you. Once again, that is not the case. Go back and watch Old Yeller, the movie about the dog. Well, the husband has to leave on a scary trail ride. His wife doesn't want to know what things he had to provide. She just wants to know that he is coming back and that he brings a nice dress with him and that he takes care of his kids once he's there. But when he is gone, she does not get involved in his business. Your husband does not need to get involved in your business decisions. Your wife does not need to get involved in your business decisions. You need to be a provider enough to stand on your own 2 feet. It is not something that is a popularity vote or something that you should both be praying about. You should be praying about it. You should take that on. But unless you're 50-50 business partners and are stepping into the accountability of being joint business partners based on true roles, you're 100% ruining your opportunity for growth. And what's the byproduct of that? a very unhealthy relationship that will slowly deteriorate over time based on not good decisions. I'm not talking about bad decisions. I'm talking about not wise decisions, though. Whether your marriage deteriorates immediately because you're making bad choices, or it deteriorates because you're slowly making semi-dumb decisions and putting too much pressure on a spouse who's not qualified to take that pressure on. I'm going to speak from my own marriage background in that regard. That very much hurt my first marriage. So I'm not trying to, again, preach at you. I'm trying to talk to you about things that matter and elements of growth in business, that if I can save you some of the stress, some of the drama, some of the heartache of areas where I have misstepped and areas where I have stepped well, then you'll learn which steps to take and which steps not to take from my own experience. Number 3, your assistant or your team members are qualified to assess money decisions with you. No, they're not. They are not in your financial department. Well, you might think, well, your CFO, who by nature takes no risks. That's the point of a CFO, is to protect you, to shield you, to keep things in order that already exist, is your most qualified advisor for raising funds. No, they're not. They're not risk takers. They're risk adverse. That's not somebody that you want looking at your expansion realities. Your chief marketing officer is more qualified in that regard. Your chief operating officer, who knows what budget they have to have in order to fulfill, they might be involved a little bit. They're going to be curious about where are we going to get the funding to pull off X, Y, or Z. But your chief financial officer is usually not aggressive enough with money to be able to guide you in terms of what decisions you need to make. And if you're at the stage where you're not making decisions more than 6 figures, then you don't need a CFO involved in that. You need to step up and realize that business takes money to make money. You don't buy even one of the terrible franchises out there, a measly sandwich on fairly bad bread with fairly mediocre ingredients or worse, depending on your opinion. Subway, by the way, largest franchise in the world. You're going to be investing well over $100,000 into that franchise. And in addition to that, you're not going to get a return for 7-8 years. And so if that's the case for a sandwich, think about your own vision and what you're wanting to accomplish and the power and value of what you're driving. And I'm trying to motivate you to realize you want to fund that properly so that you don't end up creating a situation where you've got clients coming on and vendors and prospects, and you don't know what to do with them. You don't know who to talk to. You don't know how to prioritize it. You don't know what workflows to create, and systems need to be created to support those landing pages and email templates and beyond. There's so much chaos that goes on. You're going to collapse under the pressure of all of that potential growth because you did not invest properly in your infrastructure. I am not trying to paint doom and gloom. I am trying to help you see the reality of data that supports the fact that you're not going to win going about it that way. Find me one solopreneur that is winning, and I will tell you the statistics and odds of you being that exact same person. Also knowing I've never found a true solopreneur, only people who claim it, because it's the fastest get-rich-quick scheme there is. Convincing people, I have an easier route, I have a better route, come with me, I'll make your life simple. Well, that's pretty easy to invest in. Ironically, it shouldn't be. We should know better. Your wealthy family members who know all about the stupid things you've done in your past are going to support you if you seek their permission to fund your vision. You go hat in hand. You portray yourself as humble, and they'll be more likely to support you. No, they're going to know exactly what you're doing. They're going to remember all the dumb things that you've done, or they're going to remember that you really didn't have a vision previously, whatever. You're not a prophet in your own land. You're just the same person that you were. So if you go in more aggressively than you are, and they'll see you as alpha. No, they won't. They'll see you as beta. They'll see you as a pretender who's trying to be a contender now. And they're still going to feel probably some sense of empathy, maybe make fun of you. Who knows? But that's not the way to go about this. All debt is bad debt. That's another myth. Know the math, or work with somebody who will do it with you. When you've got a credit card at a 12% interest rate, but you've got a profit margin on a solution that can scale, and that solution at scale drives a 25% profit margin, you have leveraged debt to create an income stream that not only offsets the debt at full capacity, it drives profits above and beyond. That was not bad use of investment. Now, if you use that credit card to go on vacation and to gamble and to do dumb things, then that is bad debt, but not all debt is bad debt. High risk debt is bad debt. No, it's not. Not like I just talked about in that credit card scenario. Not funding your vision will lead to bad debt. That I agree with. In fact, I need to move this over just a little bit because if you don't fund your vision, well, I have to ask you some important questions. What's the cost of bravery? There is a cost associated with it. You're going to have sacrifices, but what's the cost of being a coward? I think the cost is far worse. What's the cost of your happiness? In order to be happy, you need to fulfill your purpose in life. And so, what's the cost of depression if you don't? What's the cost of legacy? Again, you're going to have to make sacrifices to move your legacy forward. And the opposite, what's the cost of loss of purpose? I don't even want to know. I have a dad who I think knows what that feels like. I don't want to know what that feels like. If I do, it's for the sake of empathy, not because it's something I choose to go through. Another myth, I don't need to raise funding. I'll figure it out just like Joe and Susan have. Well, I hear this all the time. How do you know that Joe has made it? Where is the proof? And then you don't have the proof, and then you look and feel silly because you realize you don't actually know if he's teetering on the brink of collapse or not. Same thing is true with Susan. Why? Because she says that she's the queen of finance and that she's doing awesome. So tell me this, instead of looking at Joe and Susan, all your counterparts and what they show on Instagram and Facebook and beyond, has anything in life ever suggested to you that your business victory should be easy, debt-free, sacrifice-free, and full of success without any failures? No. Everything in life says the opposite. The seed doesn't grow without breaking open. The plant doesn't grow without fighting through the dirt. The marriage has zero substance without challenge. Your health, good or bad, is a constant challenge. Whether you're 2% body fat or 200 pounds overweight, life is going to be hard. Education was hard. Walking was hard. Running is hard. And parenting is also hard. The best things in life are often difficult. And we need to resume this and talk because we got a little bit more to go over. And then we're going to go into what types of resources you can actually be leveraging and relying on, and how to also leverage something called promissory notes. Incredibly important to have that training, even if you're not going to use it yourself. So as we get ready to wrap up myths regarding finances, and we look at this, one might ask, like, Jackson, this is Raising Capital 101. Why is it so lengthy? Well, the simplest concepts in life are the hardest ones to teach. How do you teach a kid the value of oxygen? How do you teach somebody what faith is, what belief is? Those concepts are very hard to break down for people. It takes a sincere amount of effort to teach people how 1 + 1 = 2 and beyond. And then, of course, how it relates to our life. So hang in there as we go over not just the myth, but the reality of what your battle looks like in terms of funding your operation. Because if you master these concepts, that's what will lead and allow you to create the financial resources and sustainability and gather the assets you need in order to really build your vision. So those who love you, they have been brainwashed by our modern society mostly into believing that they should want you to have an easy life. And they are wrong. You have to be the leader to guide them out of that trance. And that's life's ultimate trap. Easy never does drive growth. So stop listening to the advice of people who emulate that and preach easy as the road to victory. It's the common road. And the common road, if you look at stats, you look at depression and suicide rates and all that, it leads to misery. You've got to step up as a leader and move beyond that. Your legacy, your vision, those are paths that are difficult. The journey can be extremely enjoyable, though, and rewarding, but you must stop looking into the rearview mirror, and you must learn how to inspire those people to actually follow you as a leader towards a vision that they cannot yet see. They're going to need your guidance. That doesn't mean they need to be 100% adopting all of your philosophies, but perhaps you can inspire them to find the visions and purpose of their own so that you're not torn between people who want it easy and people who want it to be purposeful. What's the outcome of your vision and why would people buy into it? Well, you got to tell us that. You're the visionary. That's your responsibility. We're here to help facilitate it. But you have to be willing to dive vulnerably into your own vision. So our vision is to help other visionaries achieve their visions when they are aligned with two powerful realities. In other words, we don't want to work with people who aren't aligned with our own vision. Vision number one, we're creating a full appreciation for family and personal well-being within the workplace, not as an afterthought. Family and personal well-being should be something that's the whole purpose of having a business to begin with, is to create and cultivate an environment and a lifestyle that we appreciate and want. Not one where, kids walk into your Zoom room or your Zoom meeting and you're freaking out and panicking and going, oh my gosh, oh, by the way, like this, I got to go help my family. Sorry. What are you doing apologizing for that? That's what we're supposed to be living for. And in the workplace, people are having to ask for time off to be at family events or family priorities or emergencies. That's toxic. We got to fix that about society. We've got to put family and personal well-being first. And once we do, the byproduct of that is actually healthier, more productive, more successful companies. Just look at the top companies to work for in the nation. And most of those have family and personal well-being and balance baked into it. And they're some of the top performing companies in the world. So we have the proof. We just need to follow it. Number two, we're bridging the economic gap between North America, South America, and parts of the world that are so unattended for that they're literally called the rest of world, as if they didn't even matter. People matter, no matter where they come from. They matter tremendously. And those are the two visions that we stand for. If companies align with that and they want us to help build their visions and we align with their visions, then we can end up having a very healthy, happy, diligent, persistent, productive, purpose-driven team. You can add in more values if you want to. The values are usually, and the virtues are pretty much going to be emulated here within our walls and what we build towards, even though our top five, as additions to the resources for traditional finances that we're going to dive into, are love, patience, persistence, consistency, and reliability, all calculated with precision, not based on a robot, based on my intentionality, actually, based on what I've come to realize are extremely important virtues for the success that I want to have in my life. And then, of course, having found a team that also has agreed with and realized that they align with that too, and realize those are the visions, those are the virtues and values that they want to gravitate towards and cultivate in their lives. And that allows us to be accountable to each other for our results in tremendous fashion, because we're not attacking each other. We're making sure that we are all working towards success with those five virtues as the means by which we drive success. All right, so resources. You're a personal banker. Most of you are not aware of this. They can approve a loan even without checking the credit score. Not saying that's where you should go or you should be excited about that being the reality. I'm saying that if you have a personal banker, a relationship with the person who runs your bank, calling them up and talking to them is a fantastic way to gain access to capital you might not otherwise gain access to, and you might get a better rate than anywhere else. Personally, I would also build a business where the profit margins are accounted for or are calculated in, where you realize that, okay, I'm not as worried about the interest rate or getting the lowest interest rate possible, because the profit margins have me in a position to where I am winning so much I can reward my bank, as you should be willing to do. Reward all the people who fund your success. Stripe loans, for instance. If you run transactions via Stripe, I would go with a Stripe business loan. They're your ally. They're not your enemy. They're the ones who make the transactions possible. Not all conversations about banks have to be about why they're evil. And we don't have to go into the conspiracy theories on that or the proof as to why Wells Fargo or others are out to get you. That's not the point. Not in terms of the loan for your brand and your business. What is the point is you're either not funded and you don't have an operation budget to create stability and infrastructure for your team, organization, and your vision, and you're operating a pipe dream, or you are moving towards getting funding. And that's what this is all about. PayPal loans. In fact, let's go and take a look at some of these. So you can notice here, loans range from $5,000 to $100,000 for first-time borrowers and up to $150,000 for repeat borrowers. When you borrow a ton of money, you can actually use that money to pay the loan back or to give it back, so to speak. And do you lose a little bit of money? Yes. But if you've used the loan to cover the cost or reimburse yourself as you've paid for that interest, yes, PayPal has won, but so have you. It is far better to be over budget than under budget on a marketing plan and on a business venture. That way you're not freaking your family out. That way you're not cutting corners that you otherwise wouldn't have cut. We put too much strain and pressure on our relationships by not properly funding our brands. You'll notice that Stripe, they have tools. If you have not seen these pages before, once again, be grateful to step out of your ignorance into a position of abundance, at least in terms of knowledge, so you can understand what your options are. I am not telling you that you have to go get all of these. I'm not telling you have to do anything. I'm giving you exposure to opportunities that exist that you have been so afraid of, you haven't even become aware of what there is for you. QuickBooks Capital being another one. Are you a QuickBooks user? Well, this is another entity that's ready to support you and help you with growth. Then there's something like Intrepid Loans, and that seems interesting. I haven't used Intrepid Financing before, but does that mean that you can't take a gamble, so to speak, and go and do your own research so that it's less of a gamble and more of a straightforward, oh, I see how this works, and let's take a look at one of the questions. What are your funding requirements? Well, in this case, generally, annual revenue should start at $250,000 to $300,000. And business should ideally be operational for over 1 year. Meaning if you're operational for over a year and you have the finances, rather you've had revenue of over 250,000, then this is a place where you will qualify. You will likely qualify for a loan. I don't know what else you are going to need in your individual case. Maybe you have ruined your credit score already. Maybe that's not possible. Maybe you're in a credit repair building program. Maybe you invested in the credit repair programs that come to you through the mail and they've hurt you. Maybe you have an eviction notice. Maybe you have a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. There's all sorts of realities that could exist there. At the same time, being overwhelmed by knowledge that is outside of our comfort zone and running from it is not a wise practice. But diving into it and realizing, maybe I could get a personal loan to offset or rather provide a cushion for myself so that I'm not as exposed by credit cards. Maybe I could get a Stripe loan, a PayPal loan, a QuickBooks loan, a personal loan, and a credit card or a series of credit cards to give myself the financial depth. And I'm not going to exercise these based on the vacations I want, the casino I want to go to and gamble at. My goodness, be responsible with this information. That is my 100% hope. If you are responsible with this opportunity, then you can put yourself into a position to where you can create a sustainable business model extremely fast for yourself. And how do you do that? By working with a strategist who knows how to put that money to work for you. I'm not talking about a CFO. Those guys don't know jack about strategy 90% of the time. They know how to save you money on taxes. They're going to protect you and make sure that you don't spend things frivolously. And I'm not saying that's not important. I'm saying that's very different than your chief marketing officer who knows how to use that budget to recruit a team of marketers or utilize systems that will help make the energy that is output, help duplicate and possibly even 10x your output, in addition to helping you not have to do things that you're doing manually right now. Or you put that budget in the hands of an HR department or an HR director who has a plan for recruiting some of the top tier talent that's out there. But guess what? Top tier talent isn't going to come and work for you for 100% commission. And they're not going to be impressed at all when your questions are, how much is it going to cost us to work with you? Right? They see that you're cheap. They see that you don't have an investment strategy in the brand. They're not going to want to work with somebody who doesn't have a strategic plan for scale. You're going to get stuck working with people who are willing to accept the maximum minimum payment. And guess what? They come in with the maximum minimum attitude as well, and the maximum minimum in terms of loyalty on top of it. It is a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. Some of you have experienced that. Some of you have not yet. Heaven help you if you decide to go that route. Read the E-Myth, save yourself some time. Then the script to call potential lenders and investors, right? So there's this promissory notes aspect. All of these traditional means of driving funding, in addition to venture capital funded projects, working with angel investors like we did with the Baylor Angel Network when I was at Restaurant Connect. And we worked with a small business development center in Georgetown University in Georgetown, Texas, not the other Georgetown University. And they guided us, and we raised successfully some funding through the Baylor Angel Network. which actually led one of our relatives, it was Adam's parents, to decide to invest in the brand. And instead of taking the 3.6% or whatever it was, $230,000 loan with Baylor Angel Network, we were able to take a $100,000 loan and half the interest rate from his parents. They just wanted to see that we had vetted the business model, and they were smart enough not to try to vet it themselves. We'll be talking about that in the next section, what to talk about and how as we move towards the opportunity as promissory notes. Now, promissory notes are often confused as handouts or as begging people for money. That is very different. And if you go that route with that mindset, you are going to make a fool of yourself and embarrass yourself. Promissory notes are about a mutually beneficial transaction based on strategic growth that they are trusting you to have created a plan for. And if you put that planning process in their hands, or you ask them to be a venture capitalist and pretend to know what they're doing, then rightfully so, they're going to feel awkward about your relationship because you just made it awkward rather than focusing on what's most important, which is your vision. So let's dive in and talk about how you might go about this. Now, I can't guarantee that you're going to follow all legal processes necessary to complete these transactions, because you might deviate from this path. You might decide to implement 1 minus 3 plus 1 equals 4. If you get the formula wrong, that is on you. You have to be an adult. You have to be of sound mind to follow this advice. You have to accept responsibility for your own actions. You also need to go talk to a financial advisor and it's a legal specialist. I'm not qualified financially to speak on these topics. I'm not qualified legally to speak on these concepts. In fact, right now, you can just waive all, I'm just going to put a disclaimer out there that all information that I share right now, it is not suggested to follow. It is 100% what my experience has been in business. And it is information that under certain circumstances and based on statistics, I see too many business owners moving forward their brands without funding, and they end up failing. That is a reality. And I'm sick of seeing that happen. So I'm trying really hard to protect myself in this process and my business in this process, because we don't deserve to get crucified for your failure as a leader to do what you need to do to build your vision and move your brand forward. I do not work with people who have a victim mentality and who are willing to say that whatever it takes to showcase that they were No, you're not misled. This is hard. This is extremely hard. And it takes a certain personality. It takes a certain set of gifts of communication. It takes a leader who really wants to make their vision come to life to be able to pull these aspects together. And guess what? Those are types of people that win at massive levels that the world often says, shames and wants to say, well, look at, how many mistakes they made along the way. Guess what? That's called being human. People are going to be human. You're going to be human in the process, and people will probably try to crucify you for that. John Maxwell says, so what? Do good anyway. I say the same thing. So what? Do good anyway. And that's exactly why we're diving into this next section of training that is highly controversial, because we're talking about 99% of the world turning their back on these opportunities, not willing to dive into these depths to make their visions come to life. And if that's the crowd you want to join, be my guest. Go be part of the pretenders instead of the contenders. Go be part of the people who decided to abandon their own visions and not invest in their purpose and what they want to accomplish. I am here for those who are willing to invest in themselves and believe in what they're building at full capacity, not people who claim they believe something just to stand out in an audience. Now, this is about true depth of purpose. So when you make a call, or you set up a Zoom call, or you go live you have a live call on WhatsApp, I'm just going to pull that word out of there. This is not something that you email people. This is a necessary conversation. An important rule number 1, remember, do not make small talk with people at the start of the conversation. You got to save that until the end, or they're going to think and possibly even know that this is fishy. If you're doing this for the sake of manipulating people into buying from you, then that's not good. So it's not about people thinking it's fishy. It's about not being fishy. It's about being upfront with the fact that you're ready to do this. If you're not ready to do this, then don't follow this formula. How do you know that you're ready or not ready? You're going to feel it in your heart and your mind. I can't decide that for you without having met you and assessed your vision and where you're at. So again, take this with a grain of salt. You have got to be a good enough provider, a bold enough, a confident enough provider, somebody who's willing to actually drive results and has the capacity to do so in order to follow this path. So, hey, John, this is Jackson. So glad I caught you live. Do you have a couple minutes? If they hesitate, then set a time to call back. Find out when they are available. Okay, can I call you back tonight after work and catch up? For 30 minutes. You can put a time constraint on that if you know your time constraint. How long? Or for 15 minutes. They say yes. Bam, you don't need more than 15 minutes in this process. Not for process number 1. Process number 2, you do. The reason I'm calling, so they say, yeah, I got 15 minutes. Okay. The reason I'm calling is that I have a unique opportunity to take my business to a whole new level, and I'm super excited about it. I'm raising some working capital to pull it off. I'm looking for a short-term personal loan from somebody that I know and trust. And I do want to make it worth your while. I thought of you because now you got to have your own genuine relationship with this person, right? So I'd have to have a genuine relationship with John to say whatever's next. I can't just make that up. So even in a role play, that's awkward because I don't want to train you to be inauthentic. These need to be great relationships. So I'm going to use it for the sake of the role play, but please don't write it down and say, oh my gosh, that was good. You need to authentically know why you turned to that particular person. So I'll do my best. John, I thought of you because you've always been a big fan of the episodes of Vision Pros Live. And we appreciate your support on the podcast. I'm not looking for anything interest-free though, and I'm not looking for a handout. I'm looking for an actual loan that will enable me to pay you a better than average interest rate from what banks and other investment firms will pay you for investing. And the length of the loan I'm seeking is for a 12-month turnaround. For the 12 months, I want to structure an interest rate that makes it worth your while. And I don't want to just give this to another bank. I think it would be more awesome to do this with you. Does this sound like something that you would do so that we can expand even more responsibly as a brand? Engage interest, right? Full stop. You're going to respond to their answer, whatever that looks like. Personal note, if they have said no or they express hesitation, thank them for their time. Hey, thank you for your time, John. How's the kids and family, by the way? Wrap up and move on with your dignity intact. You're not going to switch gears into selling or baiting or trying to beg this person into moving forward. That would be what creates that nasty feeling that you're begging for money. And at that point, you kind of are, especially if you haven't exhausted your opportunities with these and you haven't extended this invitation to other important, prominent people in your network who are likely to support you. If they're not ready to move forward, they're hesitant at this stage, you haven't successfully inspired them with your work. So you need to explore internally or with them why your relationship is so brittle that they wouldn't even consider the value of supporting you. You have work to do on you if this is the case. Or you need to start forming relationships with not better people. I know I wrote that, but people who are better aligned with your purpose. If the answer is positive, and yeah, will you have that every time? Maybe. If you're that great of an influencer, if you've built that phenomenal of a vision, that great of relationships, you might actually have everybody invest. Your negative attitude towards thinking people won't go down this route is causing problems for you. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy that's based on your fear of missing out, your lack of belief in yourself and society. And I'm here to tell you, let that go. You're a valuable person. You wouldn't be listening to this if you weren't. Don't let that doubt and negative Ned or negative Nancy voice inside you, the doubting Thomas, ruin your great opportunities. Be ready for these positive responses, because if you call 100 people, you're going to have some people who do say yes. But depending on how well you've positioned your relationships with those individuals in the past, people will be speculative or people will be grateful that you called. Don't whine about it. Do something about it. If they're positive, then move right into this. Great. Okay, this is an opportunity for us to create a tremendous impact on, well, what's your audience? In my case, I'll revert back. You got to know your audience or the problem at hand. It's an opportunity for us to create a tremendous impact on the lives of family and personal well-being, as well as workforces, not just throughout the nation, but throughout the world. And it's going to help us expand our team, make a considerable amount of money in my business, and you'd happen to benefit from it with me by being the catalyst for the plans we've already created. Now, again, if you don't have plans that you've created for growth, then I don't know how you got here. You should have already been on our show. You should have already looked at the Power Launch webinar and the plan that exists there and the team that comes with all that. If you haven't done any of that, well, I see you, you corner cutter. I see that you have not been paying attention to all the puzzle pieces that we've set up to help you become successful in addition to helping you raise money. But you're so worried about the money. You're so worried about all of the little things that you lack that you haven't been paying attention to all the things that you should be picking up along the way. And I'm not mad at you. I'm trying to help you see it. I'm not condescending at you. I'm trying to expose the reality of what's going on in your heart and mind so that you can step into your best self and own this reality. Yeah, you do have a tremendous impact. And that audience and problem, well, if you haven't been on Vision Pros and announced that, then go on my show and announce that and help the world see what you're up to. And then recognize that the team that built that could be your team. And if you're not trying to expand your team to bring whatever vision that is to fruition, then what are you doing? And why did you jump on my stage? Why are you even watching this? And in terms of making a considerable amount of money, if you're not trying to make the money necessary, money is just a vehicle, right? And if you're trying to help people get from point A to point B, and the vehicle is money to help empower that vision, then maybe you do need to revisit that business model. In fact, I would challenge most of you need to revisit that business model, because if you don't have the vehicle to help get people from point A to point B, what are you doing talking about it? You got to make moves. You've got to use the resources in order to grow your brand. So yes, this is an awesome opportunity for them to understand that your business is designed as a profitable business. That's reassuring for any potential investors or people who are willing to give to create a promissory note with you that your business plan is viable, and they are the catalyst for the plans that you've been creating and working on. And so you may not have solidarity completely around what that plan looks like, but how could you if you haven't invested properly in a team who's going to spend the delicate time to build a true scope of work and strategy for driving business for your brand? So let's go back over that one more time. This is an opportunity for us to create a tremendous impact on the entrepreneurial world and creating holistic work environments for companies throughout the world, in addition to bridging the economic gap between North America and South America and beyond. And we are ready to expand our team. We're going to make a considerable amount of money for the business in this process, and you'd happen to benefit from it as well with me by being the catalyst for the plans we've already created. So from 5 to 20%, what interest rate would be attractive to you on a loan up to $250,000? This is where you will want to exercise silence. Let them think through that. Let them ask questions, but try not to answer those questions until giving them 3 to 5 seconds to think through the final reality of their question and get centered on it. If they're freaking out and panicking, then you're probably not going to move forward with them. You're probably going to move away from that, especially somebody says, I'd love to, but I don't have the money. Well, there's a response in there to explore that. We're going to give you the initial realities that could come up. If they say 0, please insist on more, right? Help them understand the value that they're providing by giving them a 5%. This is not a handout. You want them to receive a reward because you also want them to possibly do this again in the future for the expansion of your brand. This is not about needing it to move your brand forward. This is about understanding that you don't need it, but the vision does. The people who are going to be served by the vision, they do need it. There are entrepreneurs who commit suicide every day. Thank you very much. There are corporate executives who commit suicide every day because they don't enjoy their workforce and they're not appreciated with where they're working. We have an opportunity to do something about that. The same is true of those who live in the rest of the world and who don't have the first world problems that we do. They have serious problems like no running water, no electricity. I have an individual on my team who just ran 300 meters of cable to their house because they did not have electricity. I don't know a single person in my personal circle in life who has had to go through those means in order just to provide for their family and show that they are trying to do what they can to work with us. And we're doing everything we can to provide enough funding for them, not just to do that, but to have all of the other basic essentials of life that we take for granted that they've never had and they consider their first world opportunities, right? We have so many opportunities for growth, not just my brand, but all of the visionaries that I work with have teams, and teams have needs, and needs need to be accounted for. So going back to this, we want the investors to win as well. And we want them to be ready to understand that you are thinking in terms of expansion, not in terms of survival. If they offer between 5 to 18%, then accept that with grace and offer 2% more. You can do that on the back end with the actual agreement itself where you surprise them, or you can bring it up and say, hey, I appreciate that you're willing to do this at 5%. And I really want to see us move this forward as soon as possible. I want to move it from 5% to 7% because I'm honored by the fact that you see the value in moving this forward. And while we want every single bit of funding to move this forward, I'm hoping that as we repay you for the loan amount and help you get the return that you want, that you see the opportunity to reinvest with us down the road too. There's going to be multiple opportunities to do this as we continue to expand the vision. And I want to keep earning your trust as we go. So the first step for that for me is making sure that you get a little more than what you just asked, right? That's a very classy way to handle that opportunity. If they want it to be higher than 20%, absolutely thank them. John, thank you. I don't need to pay that much. And I'm curious what you're investing in that drives more than 20% for you currently, because I would be interested in that too. But if you would be willing to do it at 20%, I see this as a win-win for sure. And listen to them. They probably don't have something, they're probably busting your bum related to this. And, you're going to need to move away from this opportunity because they're never going to be serious about investing in your brand. Now, if it's 20% or less, then the next question is, okay, great. So how much of the 250,000 are you able to fund? You might decide not to ask that. Why? Because you've already brought up the 250,000. But depending on where they're at financially and what you know about that, this is a question that you're going to need to experiment with. You're going to have to learn how to have these conversations in order to become great at these conversations. No surgeon can bless you with the power, boom, to do heart surgery. This is a heart surgery level negotiation. And the only way you can learn how to do it is to talk about it. The good news is nobody's going to die by talking about finances. You're simply having conversations. And as you learn to go through those, you will win some, you will lose some. So what? Keep moving. That's okay. And if they say, I'd like to, but I don't have the money, here's your best response. Once more, thank them. It's very important. The fact that they're even considering the idea of investing and the fact that they made it through this conversation says they are in the buyer's pocket, so to speak. They do want to help you. And maybe they're ashamed to admit they'd be willing to do a $5,000 promissory note when you just talked about a $250,000. Well, you got to nurture them towards the value of that $5,000. That $5,000 is probably a massive value to your brand. So it is something you absolutely want to entertain and consider moving forward with. And please don't shut your door to the financial realities that are before you with that, because you are jeopardizing your growth if you are taking pennies for projects that require dollars of investments. What do I mean by that? Well, if you're running Facebook ads and you're running less than $4,000 a month in Facebook ads for 3 months, you are very much gambling, and you are not doing what's necessary to invest in all of the external components that go with optimizing that process and ensuring that you are creating a path for success. You are gambling, and I don't recommend gambling for growth. That same $4,000 reality can be applied to pretty much any aspect of growth that you may want to attempt to try for your brand. And some of you are going to walk away from this and scoff and say, oh, well, I've built a bridge that I was able to, congratulations, you survived a very scary process, one that is not likely survivable, and one that will eventually collapse on your team, on your clients, on your prospects, and it will be a very, very nasty day for you. I don't want to encourage people to go that route. Thank you again very much. So thank them. 2, test for validity. They already got to this point where they were willing to talk to you about it, and they talked to you about the loan. So no doesn't necessarily mean no at this stage, but it does mean that they need to understand a little bit more. So Thank them. Hey, thanks, John. Now, if I could show you how to leverage your assets to support this and earn the 5 to 20%, would you allow me to? And candidly speaking, if not, what's really holding you back? Right? You got to get into the depths of why they're getting cold feet with wanting to support you. Now, what am I talking about here? Testing for validity and how to leverage their own assets. Well, we just did a training on this, you and I, on going to the personal banker, getting a Stripe loan, a PayPal loan, a QuickBooks loan, and a Intrepid loan. Discover maybe they have a business, but maybe they don't have a vision for expanding their vision yet. But maybe they love your vision and they want to get a business loan investment in order to invest in your brand. Guess what that's called? That's called mergers and acquisitions. That's called strategic partnerships. Maybe they believe in you more than they believe in themselves. That is a true possibility. So it is not a bad thing for them to invest in your business, even though they have a business, especially if you're also willing to include an equity stake for them in this process. So there are opportunities to enhance the value of the deal. All of these things should be making your mind exercise and think, wow, I didn't think about the realities of these opportunities. And ultimately, you should be feeling uncomfortable, but you should also be feeling inspired and excited to dive deeper into the education available, not just through me, through others. I am just creating a whole realm of paradigm and possibility and perspective for you that you probably have not considered in the past. And if you consider it, guess what? You're stepping into becoming a wise steward. You're refusing to be ignorant, along with the rest of the world that gets upset about these things and says, well, no, how dare you ask me to ask my grandma for, I didn't ask you to ask your grandma. I told you that you can take this concept to people who financially could invest in you if you gave them a chance. And guess what? If that happens to be grandma who earns 20%, then she gave you a $100,000 loan at a year's point that you're paying back on, and she's going to earn a total of not 110,000 back, but 120,000 back. You just became the favorite grandchild by fulfilling on your promise. Now, if you have doubts of that, of your ability to fulfill, if you have the fear of failure or the fear of success burned into your heart, and you're not willing to do the hard work necessary to work past that, then you failed, grandma, not me. So be careful who you point your finger at, because there's always three fingers pointing back at you in this process. So, candidly speaking, what's holding you back if somebody doesn't want to move into this, right? We want to figure out what that is. This is the greatest gift that it can be given, that can be given to you as a leader, and you're squandering it by not diving into the depths of the details because they're worried about hurting your feelings. Because why? Again, they're worried about your feelings, not their own. You have to toughen up and be willing to accept the feedback in order to learn what to do to inspire people to invest both in your program and in you as a business owner. Both things are true. If no, again, show gratitude and find out why. Here we go with that. Hey, grandma, we'll stick with the grandma analogy. Would you please help me thank you for being willing to discuss this with me. Would you please help me understand exactly why you don't see this as a legitimate investment opportunity that you can confidently make? Your feedback and insight is incredibly important to me. Please hit me with it, right? Please help me see what I don't see in this equation. There's a lot of ways you can frame that. The goal here is to expose the fact that you are a leader enough to understand. You're a leader enough to appreciate what they're going to help you see. And that might turn into them also wanting to be that investor. If you shy away from this, if you hide from feedback, if you don't receive it openly, if you try to force them to move forward financially because they gave you feedback, you are going to lose. But do not accept any feedback that is less than genuine. That means if they say, well, it's just not something I can do at this time. If you know financially they can do it, they wouldn't have gotten to this point if they weren't able to do something, right? Even if that's $200, they're using the money to cop out of the reality that they don't want to support you, that they're not inspired to invest in you. You as a visionary have a responsibility to hit that hard and find out, no, like for real, give it to me. Like, give me not the money, the feedback. What is it that makes this seem illegitimate? What am I not doing as a leader? I need to know this for those that I'm guiding. You need to showcase that you're a leader that craves that. Show that you are going to do everything that it takes to fulfill your purpose and make this vision a reality. This is your first true test as a leader. The people who aren't quite ready to invest. Will you find out why? And will you live up to it and hold yourself accountable to it? And if they're unreasonable with you, then your new leadership test is still one and the same, finding out how to have those dialogues and those conversations. If you can't do that, you're not well prepared to lead. You need to learn how to have these conversations with people because next thing you know, it will be your prospect or it will be your client who's having the exact same fear and doubt saying, I'm not financially able to commit to this. It's not about the finances when it's about the purpose and the vision. So stop leveraging money as an excuse to opt out of conversations that are supposed to be about the value of what you provide. If yes, move into this one. You're going to collect a good faith partial payment. So great. Let's, do you want to do this by check or wire transfer? Find out. Move forward the transaction. If you don't know how to run process transactions for your brand, you've got bigger problems. You need to be working with an entity that can help you solve that problem. You're not going to win if you don't have somebody on your team who can talk about finances. Maybe you need to be teeing that person up with this conversation and getting out of the way of the promissory note altogether. But if you're doing that, then you better be paying them handsomely. Do you see how it all goes back towards needing finances to run your vision? You can't survive on a pipe dream. You've got to know how to invest responsibly in yourself, both from a financial standpoint, from an intellectual standpoint, from a mental standpoint as well, and a leadership standpoint. So you're going to collect the good faith payment in full or partial payment or a transfer and let them know that you're going to work on the paperwork and review it with them on a Zoom call in order to review the details, right? You want to make sure that you're both in line with the expectations that are there. You're going to secure the follow-up time immediately, ideally less than 24 hours from now. After the time is set, you're going to thank them and social chit chat a little bit. Hey, how's the family, by the way? I don't have to run off to the next investor because you and I are doing this. I will be talking to more investors, of course, but I would love to know, what's new. And with your family, you got to have some serious, genuine chit chat ready. Don't BS that. I'm trying to in a role play. I'm not talking to anybody particular. That's hard to do. You need to be able to talk about the things that matter in life and show them that you did not just transition the relationship from a relationship to a transaction. You can have a transaction that is also in addition to the existing relationship that is important and valuable to you, especially with somebody who just invested in your vision, right? You're going to wrap up efficiently too, though, because why? You got mountains to go move, right? You want to inspire them that you're off to the races. You're going to be building this vision that you just talked to them about, not sit around lazily and say, okay, great, let's drink a beer and let's hang out for the next week. Now that I got the money, I don't have to do anything else, right? You send that message, then they might as well cancel the transaction and send you on your way. You're not worthy of that type of an investment if you're just going to sit on your butt and not do anything with the funding that they just gave you. Not gave you, invested in you based on that payback plan that you should also be working towards. This is incredibly important. Working towards paying back sooner than later. Just because you have a promissory note that says a year out does not mean you have to wait to start and giving them back the funding a year out from now. The better plan is to actually start paying that back sooner than later and account for that in your growth strategy, because what you'll do is you'll inspire your investors to invest time and time and time again. And investor capital will drive the foundation of your brand forward in a way that you could not drive through profitability, but you'd have to wait for, which means you'd also be waiting on fulfilling your vision for others through that reality, which means that it may never come to fruition. Looking at the stats, again, 96% fail within 10 years, 4% simply survive, which means they're not crushing it for their clients, their prospects, or themselves. They're getting by and they're saying things like, we're pretty happy with where we're at. Thanks be to God. I'm not mocking the Christianity in that or the dedication to God in that process. What I am mocking, though, is that if you know that you are avoiding moving your vision forward and there are people suffering while you're living the high life and having all of your basic needs met, and you feel called to bridge that gap, who are you? What are you doing? Why aren't you diving into your vision with full capacity if you feel called to do so? That is not my responsibility. I am not here to condescend at you or tell you what you need to be doing. I'm simply trying to help you determine within yourself, what is that voice telling your heart and your mind, and how important is this vision for you to actually fulfill? So then we move into the basic standards. The easy part is actually after what we just went through. The hard part is picking up the phone and calling. The second hard part is actually helping people catch the vision of what you do by being a true, authentic visionary. And then comes framing the move forward of the transaction. Keep all aspects simple. Don't talk your way out of this. They are not financial planners. They do not need to see all the details. In fact, you need to tell them that's exactly the truth. You're not a financial planner. I'm not going to review all these things with you, but I will put you on the phone with the person in charge of the finances for this vision if you want to talk to them, right? And I will put you on the phone with the marketing strategist. But in fact, I have to pay the marketing strategist first. So I need you to put down a good faith deposit where we can pay them. What does that marketing strategist want? It depends on the marketing strategist. In my case, for that type of valuation, I would at least want $5,000 to $25,000 secured for the process. But I also want to know that I'm working with a visionary who's going to do everything it takes to raise the rest of their money necessary to drive their vision forward, which may or may not be more or less than that. We don't know until I get to meet you and see your vision. So we're playing with hypotheticals here, but the point is, keep it simple. Don't try to be the one who says, oh, well, this is what we're going to spend it on. Oh, yeah, and then I'm going to get this and that. Don't make that crap up. And it is crap. All of that scope of work has to be determined and defined by a strategic planner, not you. You're the visionary. You're the person moving different mountains forward. You're the one that they bought into, but not because you know all that stuff. Don't pretend to know it. And set healthy boundaries again. We're going to go back to that. This is so important. You want to remind them, listen, on my end, our relationship is unbreakable. I could fail. And while you have a portion of your wealth invested in me, I have all of my wealth invested in me in this vision. Do you understand that? If I fail, we both lose, but I don't want to lose you in the process. 2, I could die. And it's not likely, but do you agree? I could die. And my hope within this investment, I'm going to position this brand and this team into a position to where if I die, the legacy continues and the financial victories continue because my wife and children deserve that, right? Or because X, Y, and Z I want to happen. You have to have a plan for that. If you don't, right? And if you realize that, yeah, you are taking their money and you could die and everything's going to fall apart, what are you doing? Why are you doing that to your prospects? Why are you doing that to your clients? Why did you come on my show and talk to people about your vision if your vision is likely to fall apart tomorrow because you're not being a wise steward over planning around? How do you position your brand for success after you're gone? So again, I'm going to double down on that from my side. No, I don't know if first class business would survive without me. I hope it would. I think we're at the position where people will be able to carry the torch and move it forward, but I don't know for sure. I need to be honest and open with everybody about that I talk to. And when we get to the point where it seems like, I'm kind of an inanimate object as part of the brand growth, that's going to be a very happy day for me. I'll be grateful for the team that has created that level of stability for the infrastructure of the vision that I've started. So that's an important reality to know how to talk through with this individual. My goal is to pay you back faster than the terms. That would amplify our relationship. Do you see how and why contributing to funding my vision means so much to me? Listen to these opportunities. Internalize this with them. Whoops. Wonder how I got away from this guy right here. That's what I wanted to put in. All right. So we're going to put that as a reminder because all of you are going to get access to this document as well. That way, so that would amplify our relationship. Bam. Listen, let them talk about that. Then you also want to talk about these realities with them, how that makes me want to give everything I have to our relationship. Do you see how your investment, right? That is what we're speaking of. Your investment makes me want to give everything I have to our relationship. that is a perfectly healthy meditation process of going over with them, because they need to see the value of what their contribution really means to you. Are you sure that you really believe in what I'm building and the importance of creating full appreciation for family and personal well-being in the workplace? Is that something you truly care about? Right? Again, listen. Allow them to really testify themselves of how much that means to them. And you know what? Maybe they say, look, Jackson, I don't get that. I hope that you achieve that. And I am certain that I want to invest in you because I believe in you. I don't know how important that part of your vision is, but I believe that what you're doing is valuable, and I want to see your kids be successful. Cool. They don't have to be bought into all of this, right? You're not trying to kick them out and find a reason. Like, they're not Jesus. Don't try to make them be perfect. But these are great conversations to make sure that you have healthy boundaries with this person, and this person is not becoming a person who breathes down your neck and fights you every week and tries to get over involved. You're trying to eliminate their ultimate responsibility for the outcome while helping them understand the value of the investment, the capital investment that they gave. That's it. That's the extent of the relationship in this case. Now, if they need investment beyond that, they want to be involved, there's nothing stopping you from carving out a plan to help them be involved. It's just a little bit harder of a negotiation process under those circumstances, but it is one in which is often a part of the process of a promissory note. Don't create that, though. Try to avoid that scenario because it'll just slow down your funding capabilities. Focus again on that importance of the vision, not the realities of pro formas or the business executive summaries or the compensation plans. Don't get into that stuff. They're not qualified to talk to you about those realities. Know in your heart and mind why you are a wise investment. Anybody who's struggling with that is not going to move forward on this process. Again, these people, your potential investors, are not trained venture capitalists. So don't cater to them as though they are. They are in over their head business-wise. Remember that. They don't need more details. They need to know that you or your team, and in your case, it's typically your team. You're not the person that is being wise about everything. You are the person who was wise enough to get the wise people to help you with that. And they're simply choosing to believe in you over the volatility of the stock market. For heaven's sake, look at their other investment opportunities. That's what we've been building towards. Do you not realize that without you, they have trashy, crappy investment opportunities? They're not investing their funds in smart opportunities. Whether it's the volatility of gold or the blue chip stocks or the tech companies that are on a rise or the Bitcoins that they're getting distracted by, they're putting their money, or worse, fantasy football, ESPN, alcohol to drown out their problems, a new patio that they think is going to make them happy, a vacation that's going to delay their problems because they're not willing to go to therapy and counseling to figure out what's really going on with their marriage. There's all sorts of crappy investments that they're making. And if you inspire them to invest in you, not only are you helping them invest in something that is truly healthy and a healthy relationship, you're inspiring them to invest in a person who I believe has far more likelihood of success and driving 5 to 20% of interest growth value to them that I think they would not find without you. I don't see how they would find a better investment, a more secure investment opportunity than you, their friend who has a phenomenal vision. You have to know that in your heart and mind. And if you don't know that, then you are robbing your friends and family of investment opportunities and sending them off of a plank where they're investing in all the things that I just talked about. I am calling you out for doing that. I am not saying that that is your full responsibility prior to having this discussion. I am telling you right now, it is now your full responsibility. Anybody that you choose not to allow to understand the value of investing in your brand, you are walking them off of that plank. Level up. Help them understand the value of what you do, or combat me on why you are not a wise investment opportunity. And if you're trying to do that, then hopefully you are shutting down your vision, realizing that you don't really have a commitment to it. And I've saved everybody the hassle of the process of you going that route. And go join passionpro.org to find out what your true passion actually is. We give that away for free. We are, where else could they possibly secure such a promising opportunity? Again, I hope I've hit that home. We need to hit it and kill the horse on this one. If you've set the terms fairly, they will not find a more promising opportunity. So make sure to be fair. 6, do not empower any speculation that they create. We've talked about this. I'm going to hit it home again. They must value your expertise. Defer to the proof with full confidence, i.e., you are proof of your commitment, are you not? You have proven your market need as well, and you have a team that's eager to help you grow. What is that team? If you're like, I don't have a team, you do. First Class Business. If you have been disciplined enough to listen to this hour-long process of training and you need a team to grow, which every entrepreneur needs, it's a team sport. It is not a solo sport. Solopreneurs are called wantrepreneurs for a reason. Those who say they're solopreneurs are lying to you. It's easy to sell. Don't believe it. You had a team right here that's eager to work with you, but we're not going to work with you for free. You need funding in order to work with a team like ours. You can try. We give you the resources for free so that you can see for yourself that no, you're not going to figure this out on your own. That's why we do it. We don't want we don't want to be there when you kick our tires. Go kick our tires on your own time. The team has legitimate needs. Yes, we do. All of us have either children or we have personal desires that we want to accomplish. People have relatives that they want to provide medical attention for, or they have their own medical attention needs. If you are not investing in your team, you're not aware of what your team needs are. Again, shame on you as a leader. Figure it out. Learn what those are. You have a tremendous need for raising capital in order to achieve the ultimate goals that you have. And for those of you who are Christian out there, are we not called to bear the cross? Are we not, by design, not only asked, but commanded to make sure that we carry the cross for all of those who do not know of the good fortunes that we have? We absolutely are. Paul's life wasn't easy. Peter's life wasn't easy. Neither were the rest of the disciples. Ours is not meant to be a call for an easy life. We are called to serve, and there is a greater purpose at hand, and that requires funding. Jesus knew how to find that better than anybody else. Well, how? He could find it in the mouth of fish, for crying out loud. He was so good at funding his purposes because he trusted in his God. I don't know how to do it at that level. I don't, but I'm learning to be a wise steward, and so can you. Why? To help and bless the lives of others, the mission and the vision beyond the mission and the vision. If you don't have that mission and vision, that's totally fine, because you've come here because you do have a mission and vision to serve others, and that's what this is really all about. You do not need the investment from them. That is another reality that is super important. That's where you cross the line of being a beggar. You will get investors and clients. That is your mentality at this point. Whether it's the person you're talking to right now or the next one, have the confidence to know that you will get the investors, the prospects, and the clients that you need to win. That's what you've already convinced us of by being here. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. You will create a path to victory because that's what you're doing. That's the purpose of your vision. That is your burning heart desire. They could be a meaningful and essential part of that on behalf of some of the people who mean the absolute most to you. Again, you're raising money for your team members and the recruits that are on the sidelines, people or systems that want to invest in your success, that want to provide software to you, but cannot because you do have to pay them and you don't have the money to pay them. But if you could change their life. And let's see here. So no, you do not need the investment. However, not having the funding will 100% hurt people in general who are otherwise ready to help, that have already been vetted. And not having the funding will slow down the ability to drive the results that you know that you can drive. So it 100% matters, but we will find other ways to win if that person chooses not to help. And you want to reinforce that. So for instance, what do I mean by that? Well, they call it collateral damage. And in war, this happens too. In World War II, they sacrificed paratroopers by dropping them on the other side of the bridge that Germany had blown up. Why? It was a necessary loss. I don't want to be the politician who made that claim. I don't want to be the general who made that happen. My grandpa, though, was one of those paratroopers who was sacrificed. He was one of the very few who survived that airborne drop. And because of it, the Allies were able to build the bridge necessary to bring the troops across to stop Hitler from his tirade of controlling the entire world. Thank goodness that happened, according to our history books and what we believe in America. So, in terms of your brand, there will be collateral damage. Absolutely. There is every single day. Every day that you don't move forward, your ability to drive funding and invest in your brand, somebody is getting sacrificed in the process. There is some candidate that you did not have to interview and see who I or my team or my HR director said, hey, we'd love to have you, and we can't bring you on right now. Well, if you look at the world, you can ignore the world and say, well, I just don't want to be involved in that drama. You're not right now. You're turning your back on the rest of the world and on the third world countries. That's exactly what you're doing. But if you choose to step in and realize, man, if I go draw this funding, not only am I going to accomplish my vision and purpose of driving X, Y, or Z home, but I'm also empowering other people to build my vision with me who are going to commit their heart and soul to do this, who are going to love me for empowering them, for helping with my vision and brand. And in addition to that, they're going to learn skills that will help them perhaps end up in environments where they are far more successful than I could have ever imagined. And that's because not only me, but because I went and got an investor and helped them realize the value of investing in these people. And that investors are going to make 5 to 20% in the process, and everybody's going to have a win-win scenario in this. Oh, yes. Those realities are possible, and they're amazing when they happen. I have a whole team of Latinos that are grateful for my ability to drive revenue and the drive investments for our brand and what we're building. And we're inviting you to be the same type of leader, to go and lead people to understand the value of investing in your brand. This is Raising Capital 101. This is the very basics of raising. There are, of course, opportunities beyond this to raise with venture capitalists, to do crowdfunding, to move into areas that are more fun to talk about with your counterparts in the world that don't know a dang thing about how to run a company and how to grow a company. Stay out of those conversations. Escape the myths. Dive into the reality of realizing that if you create a strong financial backbone for this vision and you exercise it responsibly with people who love to exercise finances responsibly, not haphazardly. This is not about raising money and then throwing it away or pissing it away, as they say. This is about raising all the funding possible to make your vision not only possible, but probable. That's what we want to move towards. Not a society built on scarcity, but one built on strength. Strength of character, strength of values, strength of leadership, strength of funding and finances, and strength of vision. Be the visionary who paints the vision of that, and your investors will be excited to support you, and you will build healthy relationships with them to honor what they've helped empower you to build. Thank you so much for your time. Enjoy this. Let's build amazing visions together.